I left Haber yesterday morning for my journey, it was minus 25. So
Wait, excuse me? It was, what was it in
minus,
Havre, Montana when you left?
I think it was like minus 25 with the wind chill. It got to minus 50 with the wind chill the other day.
Come on, that minus 25 that's not safe.
No, I went out, so I had to put the garbage out. Is this recording?
Yeah, we're recording. This is going to be all part of the show.
Okay, so I went out on Tuesday or Monday evening to take the garbage can to the curb or whatever. And I'm in sweats, and then I figure, I'm just gonna run it down the sidewalk to the thing. So I just had sweats and a sleeveless shirt, and it's minus 25 or something with the wind chill. And I go to grab the garbage can, but there's so much snow, and it's piled up, and we have this a drain pipe that's frozen, for your gutters. So I'm like, I have to pull the garbage can through the snow, and it's so full of garbage, it starts to tip as I'm dragging it. So then I go to reach to stop it from tipping over, and I slip and fall into a snowbank. And I got bare arms. I hit there, and then because I'm so fat these days, I'm like a turtle on its back. I can't get up right away, and I'm like, oh my god, if I can't get up, I'm gonna die of frostbite. So then I kind of go to get up, and I'm wearing I'm wearing these Crocs. And I got socks on. I step right in the snowbank with the Crocs, so both my feet are covered in snow. I drag that thing out, then almost fall on my ass again going up the driveway, and I get back. I proceed to tell Cindy about this, and she just laughs and laughs, and she tells everyone about me because I'm sure she could see it in her mind, and then how pissed off I was getting. The other thing is metal that's exposed in minus 25 or minus 50 degree weather with the wind chill. It burns your fingers if you touch it for too long. It's not like an instance where you get stuck to it, but it burns because it's so cold, it burns you. So I wouldn't recommend it. The snot freezes in your nose. It's a different feeling, that's for certain.
And with that, we are into the spring training edition of the Ryan Divish Show, proudly brought to you by Chalet Bowl, who I had a great conversation with Reggie Frederick. They said, why not? We'll do it again. We'll do it for another year. We were, regrettably, but we're going to do it. But the Chalet Bowl's back, sponsoring Ryan Divish this year. They've been serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District, family-owned and operated. Check them out at chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. All right, weather talk is out of the way. So you've gone from minus 25 in Havre, Montana. It's, what, is it 80 in Peoria? Or?
No, it's not quite 80 today. It's it says it's 53. Ooh. And partly cloudy conditions.
That's not what you signed up for.
No, but you know what? It's not minus 50. So, I didn't get the complete 100-degree difference, but I got about a 75-degree difference in weather temp. Yeah. Last night when I landed, and I got in late, I took the late flight in, I landed, it was 65. I ain't complaining about that.
No, not when you're coming from minus 25.
It's supposed to rain on Friday, but by Sunday, 70 by Sunday.
There you go. Have you already done your tradition? Have you done your traditional In-N-Out burger?
I am going here in a little bit. It's only 9:45. I did get a Dutch Brothers Nitro Cold Brew. There's so much caffeine in this stuff that, I love Dutch Brothers. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Nothing's cheap anymore, Ryan.
Yeah, but these people at Dutch Brothers are so effing happy and in such a good mood, and they're so excited. And I haven't had coffee. I went to bed at 1:30 last night because I didn't get, by the time I got to my place. I just want, I order the thing. I don't need conversation. I don't want, hey, yeah.
You don't want people to talk to you. Yeah.
No, I don't want any of that. I just want you to give me my caffeine so I can get the dopamine hit of being an ADD person, and then I can move on with my life.
Yeah, just say that to them. You should just wear something on your chest when you go to the Dutch Brothers. I don't want to talk.
Yeah. I'm here for coffee, not conversation.
Here for coffee, zero. Dutch Brothers, is that an Oregon company? Is that Portland?
I believe, yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's good stuff. I don't know that it's worth some of the lines you see. You know, when
Yeah.
Corey Brock was on the beat, he loved it. And, you know, he'd always, hey, if you're out, you gonna stop at Dutch Brothers on
You
the way back?
just go pick me up a coffee. All right. So before we get to baseball, your traditional order at In-N-Out is what?
I don't know. It's varied. You know, when the one year when I was trying to be healthier and I didn't want as many buns, I would go they call it a 3x3 instead of a double, 3x3, which is 3 burgers and, you know, a triple burger.
But God forbid you'd have an extra bun with that.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, it's the carbs. So I'll probably I usually just go 2 double doubles, animal style, with no lettuce and no tomatoes. I don't really need that salad on there.
I
want
got
the
you.
pickles, you know,
Okay.
and the fried onions. I don't get the fries. I mean, like sometimes, you know, like when my girlfriend's here or kids are here, they like the fries with the In-N-Out sauce on there. I don't need them. I just need the 2 cheeseburgers, a large iced tea. I'm good. I don't even get a shake, just large iced tea.
The shakes are. Here's the thing about In-N-Out. I think you got to be there because I think people from California would say, "Well, Dick's isn't good. Like Dick's is terrible." And then if you're from here, you're like, "Well, I don't really like In-N-Out. I think In-N-Out's fine." I just think if you don't do the fries right if you've got to tell them to cook it twice.
Yeah.
Like if you have to tell them I need it twice, whatever the code is for it, then cook it twice. Like that, I just cook it right the first time.
And they don't have any tartar to put on your fries either.
Well, that's the thing I love about that's what I love about Dick's.
You got
2 ketchups, 2 tartars.
Yeah, 2 tartars.
But I will say this about In-N-Out: the shakes, unbelievable.
Yeah,
great milkshakes.
I like the shakes. I like their burgers a little bit better than Dick's. I think they're a little bit thicker. And then again,
we like thick stuff.
I've never really had Dick's drive-in when I've been sober or haven't had alcohol in my system, so I don't.
Sure. Yeah, that happens. You know what? I woke up this morning, picked up my hard copy of the newspaper, opened it up, or actually I saw this online, and I'm thinking right before I picked up the paper, right before I opened the Seattle Times.com online, I'm thinking, you know what today's going? I'm making the coffee, Divish, and I'm thinking today's topic, we're going to talk about the bullpen. And then I open up the SeattleTimes.com, and that son of a bitch Jude has already beat me to it. He's got a whole story up on the bullpen. So this episode is really me just now. Instead of doing any research about the bullpen, I'm just ripping off Adam Jude and all of his work. You just
wish you could rip off the hairstyle and the looks of the Nick Lachey looks.
Well, the hair is wonderful. The physique, just the entire package. Adam, if you're watching or listening later, the entire package is sensational. He did a great job. You looked at you looked at the starting rotation. We're going to touch on that one as well. The bullpen. Where are we at with the bullpen? As Adam writes at the Seattle Times, SeattleTimes.com, you look at the last 2 years in which they struggled in one-run games, and I combined the last 2 years. They were 52 and 54 in those one-run games. 3 years ago, when they actually made the playoffs, they got in, as Adam pointed out in the paper, 34 and 22. So clearly, I mean, the margin of difference here in the last few years where they missed the playoffs by, a game in each of these last 2 seasons is the difference of how their bullpen and how they overall performed in those one-run games. Can they get back to where they were a couple of years ago with this bullpen, Ryan, or what are some of the roadblocks you think standing in their way?
Well, I think the biggest roadblock is health. And I haven't read Adam's story yet. It's still early. I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to take.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's really good. It's a wonderful piece.
Yeah. Where they're health is the biggest roadblock. I mean, you're talking about Matt Brash and Gregory Santos. They're 2 leverage setup men going into Andres Munoz, and Santos should be ready by opening day. I didn't see him. I got here to the complex and walked around a little bit. There's some changes and stuff, and it's kind of getting the lay of the land. But I hadn't seen him yet. They're taking their physicals today, so they don't get out and throw. Did see Colt Emerson. That guy's a large human being, and a few other guys. But yeah, so Brash probably isn't going to be ready. I know Jerry DePota said the 3rd week in April, 3rd or so. I would probably just conservatively say May 1st. You always want to err on the side of caution. And even then, when he comes back, I don't think he's full go. They're gonna have some like limitations to what he's going to do. You're certainly not going to see him go back to back right away. And then with Santos, I mean, what did he make, 8 appearances last year? When you saw him, it's like obviously it's nasty and there's attitude and all that stuff, but you got to post, as they say. So, you know, you look at the rest of the bullpen, and then Troy Taylor, who was one of their better relievers in the last month, you know, as a rookie. Well, he's going to be out because he has a lat strain. So, you know, that spot in the 8th and 9th inning, or 7th and 8th inning to get to Andres Munoz is still up in the air. And it's not like they went out and spent on a reliever. You know, they picked up a lot of guys off waiver claims and stuff like that. And, you know, and they've had success with that in the past. But right now, it's anybody's guess who's going to pitch that 7th and the 8th leading up to Munoz. I mean, obviously, if Santos is healthy, he'll get a chance. But, you know, Taylor pitched some leverage last year. I mean, Colin Snyder was one of their more used leverage pitchers in the last month. That really wasn't the role that they envisioned him in, because he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. So usually you like to have somebody that gets, you know, some strikeouts in that regard, in that role. Like Brash obviously strikes out a lot of people, and so does Santos. But, you know, we don't really know if they're going to be available to be used in that role.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Thornton there. You mentioned, maybe you didn't mention Thornton, but Snyder and Thornton and those guys. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a concern there with Matt Brash because of just he's Tommy John and the torque and strain that he puts on that throwing arm, of just how much do they want to push it. And you're right with Santos. It was 8 games. So I think we've talked a lot about this offseason, about what they didn't add with their offense, right? If not adding really anything of significance, you know, one area that they just haven't really addressed, which could be a massive question mark for them. They do have a great track record of it, but is nothing really in that bullpen. I mean, they are really, they're going to depend on guys who are not healthy. And can you ride out another year here? I know he didn't pitch the most innings last year. I think it was 2 years ago, but you know, you're going to depend on Andres Munoz a lot, and he wore down as that season went on last year.
Yeah, he was dealing with some back issues and stuff. From everything I've heard, like, he's healthy now. I did some stuff, I think, off-season wise to kind of maintenance or, you know, build up, so he's not going to deal with those issues as much maybe as he did last year. But yeah, I mean, like, regardless of whether Munoz, like, so many of these games are lost in the 6th and 7th inning, or, you know, when you're winning 1-run games, it's like when you have let's say, you know, you're down a run going into the 7th or 8th, it's about keeping it at 1 run so it gives you a chance to come back. I think a lot of times last year we saw a lot of inherited runners score. You know, like, it's one thing to look at their ERA or whatever if they didn't allow an earned run, but if the inherited runner that they had, somebody else goes on somebody else's ERA, it still scores. Like Trent Thornton, it's kind of crazy. You look at his stuff, when you look at kind of how he does it, it should be better than maybe the numbers show, but for whatever reason, in leverage situations, he gives up contact. He has the bad walk. Maybe it's just not like where he fits. You know, maybe he's more of that 6th or 7th inning guy coming after the starter. I think Scott Service used to label it the pivot guy. But you remember guys like Justin Topa and guys like that would pitch in that role, and then, you know, kind of grow from there. So I didn't even know, like, you know, they called it the Steckenrider pile last year, Steckenrider bucket, but like the pile of relievers that they bring in, I don't know if there's anyone that's like, I'm picking them. Like, there's to be that guy that emerges. I mean, the one name, not Neftali Feliz, who's like 107 years old and hasn't pitched in like 3 years, is back. But Shintaro Fujinama, he's a Japanese pitcher. If you recall, he was a guy with the A's for a while. He threw like 97 and had no idea where it was going. He hit like 3 Mariners players in
I don't remember him at all. No.
Oh man, he throws like 97 and it's got nasty movement and everything. But literally, like any other Japanese pitcher that can really command, this guy is like Wild Thing Vaughn, just spraying.
Perfect.
Fastballs.
He's our guy.
But I mean, like, if there is somehow they can harness that, if the Mariners, if their pitching lab can kind of get him some command, then maybe that's the case. The one thing is too is like it's inefficiencies or whatever that's kind of what everybody thinks. It's the lab fixes their mechanics or a pitch or something. A lot of times what their pitching guys do is just look at the success rate of certain pitches and certain aspects and say, look, just throw this 25 or 30% more, throw it in these counts, you'll have more success. So maybe one of these guys that they've picked up on waivers, they're looking at and saying, hey, you need to do this. If you do this, you'll have more success.
What about a couple of guys? I mean, and the thing that they've done, and we've discussed this before, they have this amazing ability to find guys that we don't know anything about, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that guy was really good. I mean, this has been, of all the criticism of this front office, one thing that they have done well is with their bullpen. They have been able to find guys, and with their pitching lab and all of their expertise in that department, they've found guys and been able to develop them and have been able to at least always squeeze out a year or two from these guys, and then they'll pivot to the next person. But as Jude pointed out in his story, I mean, that ERA last year for this bullpen, the highest since they've had since 2001. Most home runs per 9 innings in the last 5 years. And then from August 1st, and everyone could see this, I mean, where they tired down, and their bullpen was like 29th out of 30th. In Major League Baseball, just as they kind of wore down. So they're going to need these guys, the guys that have been injured, to come back and hopefully be as good as they once were, and then have some surprise guys in that bullpen. I'm curious about some of the guys that we should keep an eye on, who are right now are in the minors, who are coming up, who they once were starters, now they're going to try and put in the bullpen. Who are some of the guys that Mariner fans, as we get into spring training, start reading all of your work and Jude's work, when the games start on the Game Changer webcast, who should they be looking at out of that bullpen? Starters who they're going to try to convert into bullpen arms.
Well, I mean, I know Adam listed Brandon Garcia as a potential candidate. I mean, he's lefty, throws hard, and he's considered one of their more ready starting pitching prospects. And he was pretty coveted last year at the trade deadline. Lots of teams asked about him. I think what they'll do, he'll stretch out as a starter. As far as I know, he's going to stretch out as a starter during spring training. But like if he pitches well in that role, and maybe they look at, maybe Taylor Saucedo or Gabe Spire not pitching as well this spring, they may turn to Garcia and have him pitch in the bullpen for a little bit. I mean, I don't think that he's going to be a full-time conversion to reliever. You don't usually do that with somebody that young, but
he's a big kid, 6'4". Jesus.
Yeah. He throws well, and so that's in a scenario where they could do that because they have Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock down at AAA as starters. They tried to convert Logan Evans last year as a reliever, and it just didn't work for him. Didn't bounce back maybe as they wanted, and so I don't know. I mean, those are kind of the main guys. I was looking at the non-roster invites. I don't really know a lot of these guys.
What about that Hunter Cranton?
Oh, so he was drafted as a reliever. He was a reliever at Illinois. Okay. And so, I mean, he is – I mean, they honestly thought last year that he was so advanced, and because he was a reliever and because he was built up, they thought maybe he could even push his way into something last year just because he was that advanced. So I'll be interested to see kind of where he's at, but he's a guy that is a reliever, has experience, and I think they believe he could probably come in. There's another guy named, I think it's Daris Valdez. He was a guy that they picked up from the Phillies. Guy throws 100. Again, doesn't necessarily know where it's going, but, that's kind of – that happens with some guys. They have some guys like that, It's the same thing with Carlos Vargas, who they got in the Suarez trade, the last remaining remnants of the Suarez trade. He throws hard, but he just doesn't throw enough strikes. I mean, the selling point for these guys will be, do they throw enough strikes to make it? Because they're not. I mean, this pitching lab and the Dan Wilson in general, they're just not going to put up with walks from relievers. That's just not what they want.
Hey, what do you when the MLB.com did that story, Divish, about the home road splits with the offense and the numbers were so vastly different and all that. One of the things that stood out to a lot of people were and you didn't need that story to point it out, but it just did, the home road splits of Munoz. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, it's pretty drastic the difference between what he does at home compared to what he does on the road last year. At home, he had a 0.28 ERA. On the road, it was a 4.28. What factors go into that for him? Why did it affect him more than it affected other pitchers?
I didn't look at it like closely enough to sit there and say, but situationally, when you're at home, it's a little different because you're coming in and, you're coming like they're not using Munoz very often unless they have a lead at home or it's tied. Where on the road, like you can pitch Munoz if you're down one or something like that. And I'm not a big believer in the mentality of the save, non-save situation thing. I think that's overblown. I just think that some of the times they used them on the road were situations where it could balloon up more. Whereas like when they used them at home, it was a pretty set situation for him to have success. So and like he did give up some homers on the road. There were a couple. I can't remember, it was one in Milwaukee maybe or something like that. He had a blow up there, and that was when his back was an issue. But like, no, I don't make a ton of that. I mean, maybe the contact is a little harder. You do get punished a little bit more. But I think for him, usually it's a command issue. When he doesn't command, he might walk a guy or two or fall behind, and that's when he gets hit. And he puts himself in more predictable situations. But I didn't think that there was any one thing that was that drastic. Whereas like with a starter where you have that many more innings, like with Brian Wu and Bryce Miller, I do feel like, and even George Kirby and these guys, I do feel like when they're at home, they feel, and I'm sure in Munoz's mind too, you feel like you can challenge guys more because you won't get punished. And so, and you don't. And then whereas on the road, you might try to be a little more fine with your command, and that you have a miss here, you miss there, and all of a sudden you're 2-0 or 3-1, and it doesn't matter where you're pitching at. You can give up damage that way. So I think there is that mentality or freedom of pitching at home, but I think it's more indicative for starters than it is for relievers.
In your latest preview up at SeattleTimes.com, you looked at the starting rotation, the headline being, can the M starting rotation stay elite in 2025? I'll ask you the question your editor posted there on the headline. Can they stay elite in 2025?
If they can stay healthy, they can stay elite. That's the separator. I mean, they used 7 starting pitchers last year. That just doesn't happen. I mean, 5 of them made, like 140 some of the 162 starts. Emerson Hancock made 12 starts. I mean, they used 6 pitchers because Jonathan Diaz.
He pitched 1, right?
Pitched 1. And so, it's like, okay, well.
That's amazing.
Does that, and if you look at the overall usage, Logan Gilbert's over 200 innings. George Kirby's back-to-back seasons with 190 innings pitched. Bryce Miller bumped up his overall usage by 50 innings. Brian Wu up by 35 innings. Does that, portend to injuries like, fatigue injuries, usage injuries? Do they, do we see a stint where somebody gets a soggy shoulder or something like that? You don't know.
And that's soggy shoulder.
But that's the thing is like, and really the Mariners are in a position where they can withstand an injury for a little while. Like Emerson Hancock is a solid pitcher. He's not on the level of any of those 5 right now. And Logan Evans has the potential to be, but he's never pitched. So, you lose one of those guys for a month, or you lose a guy, you have 2 of them out at the same time. That's a problem, because this offense we don't know, but as of now, isn't good enough to withstand maybe that sort of absence. So that's the thing. If they can keep them healthy, and like the Mariners do a really good job with keeping pitchers healthy and like all their arm care, and Logan Gilbert does all this training to avoid injury. But at the same time, throwing a baseball is an unnatural act, and at some point, it takes its toll, the amount of pitches. So, it's crazy. They used 7 starters last year, and those 7 starters logged more innings as a rotation than any other staff in baseball. That's 94 quality starts. In an era where pitchers usually go 5 and dive, and very few pitchers, get to that 200 innings threshold. Logan Gilbert got there. George Kirby was 10 or I think 7 away. Bryce Miller's at 180. Luis Castillo would have been close to 100 if he didn't have the 200 if he didn't have the hamstring strain. I think that's the issue. And like Brian Wu has had a history of having nagging things come up for him. They think that changing his routines in between starts will be more beneficial to keeping him on the field. But you just don't know. Like, that's the thing, is like, I think there's always that uneasiness with pitchers. Like, when is it going to happen to them? Because it's rare that it doesn't.
I'm sure you're going to catch up with Brian Wu. That's something I wanted to ask you. Obviously being down there in spring training, to get a vibe about, how his offseason was. What is he doing differently? Because that will be one of the bigger question marks is, can he stay healthy? Can he have a full season where he provides just, every fifth day, just a great turn in the rotation? I mean, he had a fabulous season last year. I mean, 121 plus innings. He went 9-3 at ERA of 2.89. But again, and it seemed like he maybe got through a little bit of that nagging stuff. But again, it took him in the beginning of the season to kind of get over that hump. And I think there was a famous talk. Was it Cal that gave him the talk in Boston? I think when you and I talked last
Cal
season.
Yeah.
Kind of a coming to Jesus moment with him.
Yeah. Just kind of about who you are and how do you want to, like what are the expectations, or what do you need to do to get to the next level that Bryce and those other guys did. I mean, like, that's the thing. If they were able to get, if you can get a combined, so let's say that Gilbert, Kirby, and Castillo give you 30 starts as your 1, 2, and 3, like 30 starts roughly, and you get 25 minimum from Bryce and Brian, so that's 140 starts. You get 140 starts from those guys, that's pretty solid. You'll be happy with that. If you get anything more than 140 starts from those 5 guys combined, they'll have success just because those guys are that good. I just like those guys continue, and this is what I wrote about. It's like the X factor in all of this. These guys and their continuous search to improve, and their willingness to adjust grips, to change their thinking on pitches, to modify stuff throughout the season and continually adapt to what hitters are doing, is what separates them. I mean, like, there's a lot of guys that throw hard and can throw a lot of pitches, but the mentality that these guys have to kind of continually adjust who they are as a pitcher is what makes them great. And I think that's what could separate them. If they get, like I said, the 150 starts from those guys, or 145 starts from those 5 guys, they'll win 85 games minimum, because that's what happened last year.
Yeah.
And we won't. And as little as they did this offseason, I don't think the offense will be as bad as it was last year.
Well, the one thing that you love about those 5 guys in particular, and you kind of touched on it there a little bit, is that they have this drive and this desire not to be complacent, to always try. And I mean, I know a lot of athletes are like this, but this group in particular, like, they're always looking for the next. How can we get better? What can we do to improve on our pitching arsenal, which is already great anyways, but how do we get better? That's something that's just that you hear those guys talk to you guys, that you love to hear all the time. Just never being complacent to the stuff that they already have, and the desire to learn and develop more.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's
the anti-us.
Yeah. So it's just it's a craft. Pitching is a craft, and they're continuing to hone their craft and be better. I mean, like, you saw Bryce Miller posting videos of him throwing a cutter at 90 miles an hour, and just that boring in action on the hands, like, what that could do for him against lefties as well as righties, like, just another weapon. I mean, like, I had a scout for, I don't know, it must have been the Rays, or somebody asked me, he's like, does every one of the Mariners pitchers throw like 7 different pitches and all like can perform? And I was like, well, they don't continue to stop. They don't look at it and just say, these are my 4 pitches, I'm not going to do anything different. Like, that mentality. And I think at this point too, with technology and the way you can measure it and everything else, like, you can see if a pitch is viable through the data, like the TrackMan software and stuff. How much is it moving? How much is the spinning? Is it really viable based on metrics for other pitcher success? It's not just a catcher telling you, oh man, that looks great. No, like, you have real input as to whether a pitch will be useful or not. And these guys have all grown up around it, and they're continually using it to improve themselves. And I think, the Mariners for a while had the market inefficiency because they were really good at that. But you saw like the Royals got a pitching guy last year that helped change some stuff. Everybody's starting to get these guys. Hell, you look at these college teams and their pitching labs, they got like 4 coaches and all these analysts and all these different things. So that's what everybody does. But the Mariners, you can have the best pitching lab in the world and all that stuff. But if you don't have players that don't embrace like change and different thinking and getting out of their comfort zone to have success, then it won't work, you know. And now that's the thing is like, how do you get hitters to do that? Because it's so different for pitchers because you have these standards and stuff set based on like the data and like the efficiency with your mechanics. But with hitters, it's still so different. You have all these different guys. I mean, hell, I'm sure you've seen it. Aaron Judge's private hitting coach is screaming at Chipper Jones on Twitter every day. You know, like it's so different. And I don't know when that's
Wait a minute. Well, time out. I have not seen this.
Yeah.
The hitting coach of Aaron Judge yells at Chipper Jones on Twitter?
We have to get into arguments all the time.
Oh, I've missed this. I got to look this up.
Yeah, the guy is called Teacher Man on Twitter. His name is Richard Shank. And I think like some of the stuff that he teaches for hitting, like it's different, and won't say that it's wrong. I think it's based more for big league hitters, but I think the biggest reason that it looks bad is because he demonstrates a lot of the stuff, and this guy is like 70 and built like he's built.
I gotta look this guy. Is he built like me?
No, he's built more like the old Graz back in the day.
The old Graz.
Where there's just, it's kind of pear-shaped. There's pear, and then he pulls his pants up really high. Too,
oh,
so
God, I love it. I love
it. It's not, so he gets in all these fights with people on Twitter about how he does it right, and he's the genius and all that. I'm kind of like, oh, God.
I love it.
Because I don't think there's any one way, but like there has to be I'll send you the link.
Okay, send it to me.
He's the work.
There's always so much with these guys, though. There's just, sometimes I always think that these guys, they get so overloaded with stuff sometimes rather than just going out and hitting and pitching like they did when they were kids.
Well, to me, it's like we talk about with Julio, the swing had some issues to clean up and everything like that. But a lot of it was the mentality of who you were, what pitches you were swinging at, and what you were trying to do when you're trying to hit them. You know, I think that's the difference where, like everybody else can get in the mechanics and all that. But if you swing at shitty pitches, you're not going to do a very good job of hitting them. Or if you're not in a good position and good counts to get pitches to hit, these guys, you're not gonna have success. So.
I found this Twitter thread. You're right. He does look like Graz. He's got the khaki pants with the polo tucked in, and then he's just Chipper Jones is. What does he say? Chipper Jones, like, this is back on December 8th. So hard to watch. Really feel like this kid is saying, seriously, this is how a used carsman sells hitting. And then this guy, what's his name? Richard Shank.
Yeah.
But someone better than you trained with the same drills as the kid is doing. So maybe you should try to understand it before opening up your pie hole. I did not know this existed. I'm in. I'm following Richard Shank right now.
Like, and you know how the Twitter algorithm works too, where you have like all these.
Yeah, I'm in.
It's crazy. So I'm kind of. I'm just great. Like this. It's just a nut thing. Because so you follow some of these hitting guys and stuff, then it's constant. Like there's one guy that's kind of trashing on Driveline for focusing too much on pulling the ball and using the hit tracker, and the hit tracker is a really weird thing. I know I took my stepson Tyson to this place called D-Bats in one of the D-Bats things, and it had a hit tracker, and he's just trying to overcook everything. And I'm like, how about you just put it on the barrel?
Hey, you know what? That's the thing, Divish. When you hit the ball on the barrel of the bat, you know what? Most of the times, good things happen.
Yeah.
Most of the time, good things happen.
No, but that's the thing. That'll be the new thing is like, how do you get these guys that are hitters to finally kind of buy in. And I think that was the big thing with like Edgar last year and Dan, was that they had an overall philosophy and they tried to implement it. And not everybody's going to follow it. They all have their own hitting guys, but the mindset of just like, hey, when we have 2 strikes or when there's runners on base, humble yourself and hit the ball up the middle.
Yeah.
And do this for the team, and you'll have more. And if you have this mindset, you'll have more success individually. And I think players started to see it. Now that can go away because players' motivations for their performance. It's like I always tell people, baseball's an individual sport within a team, because like teammates can't freaking help you when you're up at the plate and guys, you're facing somebody throwing 100. What's the teammate gonna do? It's like the whole Vision Quest thing,
right?
Loudon Swanley says wrestling's not a team sport. When you're out there on somebody on the mat with somebody who's bigger, faster, and stronger than you, there's not a whole hell of a lot your teammates can do for you.
100%.
And so it's like the motivations for these hitters are different at times. They want to put up their numbers, but I think that'll be the thing to watch for this year is like, how do these hitters react? How do they use whatever data or whatever mindset or whatever overall philosophy to kind of continue to have success? And maybe, it's not honing their craft of their swing, but their approach and their mentality. It's a little more defined with pitchers because they have the baseball, they can manipulate it. At the end of the day, pitchers still can make you look like an ass, even if you're doing everything right.
If you had to pick right now, they've got worthy candidates. You had to pick right now, who do you think the opening day starter is? It's clear cut who it is?
I think you should just give it to Castillo. I mean, like, he's earned that right, And I think, and honestly, I think as much as maybe like Logan or George or Bryce would love to have it, I think they would defer to Castillo out of respect for what he's done and how he's, the influence he's had on him. It's not, he's not necessarily just like Robbie Ray where, it's so super vocal and really, talk to guys about how to be a pro and this and that. But Castillo's just kind of presence and like the calming thing that he has. Yeah. I think that's the thing. And I mean, like, why do a John McLaren and like bring dysfunction to the clubhouse, by giving
worst decision he ever made. I mean, absolutely the worst.
I mean, even like I like Scott, but like giving Robbie Ray the opening day start over Marco, when Marco had done it for how many years and was such a leader, like that just it just doesn't. I mean, because it is, and like the justification is it's just one game. Yeah, but like if it's just one game, then why don't you do what you think is the most popular thing in the clubhouse instead of like causing waves? It just
because it's a symbolic move. It's a symbolic gesture. It's not about he's the number one ace. I mean, obviously most of the time it is, but it's also it all resets itself anyways once you get through the first time. It doesn't mean anything.
It's just an unnecessary way to like hurt the feelings of your better players. And I mean, like these guys have, these guys can get a little hurt and they can get emotional and stuff. So, they're not teenage kids, but at the same time, some of them have the maturity level of that. So
of course they do. Yes, they do. I
mean, so do we.
Well, of course. All right. I got a last thing for you before we cut you loose. I got a question from a fan of yours, a listener, viewer, Jeff. Jeff is always on our live show. Jeff is probably watching right now, and he's like, hey, can you ask Divish a question for me? He's heading down to Arizona. His daughter's playing in a softball tournament down there. I think he's going down later this week or next week. He said, I need food recommendations from Ryan. So give Jeff some food recommendations. I don't know exactly where he's staying, but just, the Phoenix area. Your top 5 spots for Jeff.
Well, I mean, for Mexican food, I will say Los Dos Molinos. Just get an Uber if you're going to drink the margaritas. Okay. Jason knows this very well. Get an Uber because they don't taste like they have tequila in them.
No, there's no taste at all until that first one goes down.
A lot of tequila in them.
Yes, they do.
When you are at Los Dos and it has the little pepper next to the menu, unless you have a gut of steel or used to eating spicy stuff, you run far, far away from that. I love the adobada,
the ribs
pork that they have there, the ribs, but it will destroy you.
It will leave a hole in your stomach. So
and your toilet the next day.
Yeah.
But it is amazingly good going down.
All right, Los Dos.
I love Richardson's Fine New Mexican Cuisine with the hatch green chilies. They do their own sausage there that has hatch green chilies and pork in it. Oh my God. So like I'll go there, and they also do a brunch. They have like chilaquiles, but I'll go there sometimes. Tim Heavily and some of the mayor's guys will, if we're over on the east side of the valley, we'll stop there, and they have I'll just get off the happy hour menu. I'll get the sausage plate and then the sliders that have a pork slider that is and a hamburger slider plate. Secret. And they also have, it was Lou Pinella's, one of his favorite places. They have prickly pear margaritas.
Yeah, they're very good. And then the back bar, which I don't think is there, that's not the same spot, right? The Hideaway.
No, the Rookery, it's called. There's a back bar.
Yeah,
there.
that was an old haunt of John McCain.
Yeah, it's a great place. I love it.
Great ambiance.
Yeah, Barrio Queen it's a local chain. It used to be Barrio Cafe, then the owners split and everything. But Barrio Queen is pretty solid. They have I get a carne asada torta, and then they put cooked egg on it.
Oh.
It's like
okay.
And then there's a taco place right down the street from here in Peoria. God, I can't remember the name of it now, but you can go in there and they do the vampiros where they take they crisp up a shell, and then they melt the carne. They put carne asada and then melted cheese on it, and then they have a whole salsa bar. And again, if it's got the pepper on the salsa bar, you have to be careful. Go with the green. And
we don't know the name of that place.
Oh God!
All right, you just think about it later.
When you go in, they have the hanging racks of the carne asada and the all the different kinds of meats, kind of like an Argentinian steakhouse, but it's Tijuana style tacos. And you have the racks, and they cut the meat from there.
Oh,
and my
Jesus!
God. The pork too. Oh, and then my all-time favorite is Leo's Island Barbecue.
Okay.
Because when you come to Arizona, you think of Hawaiian food, but this place, this Hawaiian food, Puckett, and for like $13, it's like a carton that you need a crane to. I get the island, or I get the chicken one, which is island chicken, katsu chicken, and then they won't charge extra, I don't think. So you can say no salad. And they'll say, do you want extra rice or extra mac salad? I'll say no vegetables. And so I'll say, and she's like, do you want extra rice or extra mac salad? And I say, I'll have extra mac salad because you already get 2 huge things of rice.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then we did like 5 orders of that. And she's like, yo, you're the guy that hates vegetables. And I said, yes, I do.
It's fair. You and Al Michaels.
Leo's is kind of like the hidden gem. I've told
Leo's. Is that in Peoria?
Yeah, it's right by the Target here in Peoria. It's probably 5 minutes from the stadium.
All right, there you go, Jeff. Los Dos Richardson's.
Tell Jeff if he hits me up on Twitter on the DMs. I have a Yelp list for almost every major league city I go to.
You should write it. You should put it in the paper. That'd be fun.
So.
All right, good stuff. There he is, Ryan Divish, with us weekly. Again, brought to you by Chalet Bowl, which is back for another year. Go visit Chalet Bowl. They're in the historic Proctor District of Tacoma. Family owned and operated for over 40 years. Book your reservation at chaletbowl.com. Big thanks to Reggie and the Frederick family for being back for 2025. You can catch the full Divish interview again. There will be up on YouTube. Also, the full one will be up on the Patreon page. So become a Pucks Posse member, $5 a month, and you get the full Divish podcast. They're up on YouTube, also up on all your favorite podcast platforms. But we do give you the abbreviated, a good chunk, 20-minute version that is free to everyone up on YouTube, and also all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. All right, enjoy your in and out, and we'll talk to you next week.
Hey, I need a golf pick. Like, got live betting down here now. I need a Genesis pick because it's.
Don't ask me, man. Every time I'm already dead last in my golf league, and I've missed 3. Three of my golfers already have missed the cut.
I tried to jump the Sunday at the Waste Management and take Scotty, and then Spieth, And all I was doing is just wanting Christopher Dietrich to choke like a dog. And he didn't. He just, after he 3-putted, I think it was 9 or 8, he striped that driver. I was like, well, this is over with.
I got nothing for you. I literally am just, when I make my pick later today, I'm taking the darts out and I'm just throwing it against the wall because nothing, doesn't matter how much homework and studying I do, nothing helps at all.
Well, they have app betting down here at Puckett. So
yeah, I know what they got down there. It's America is what Arizona is. All right. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Div.
All right. See you, man.